We bought a new car a while ago. It's an 11-year-old Porsche Cayenne diesel. Despite the badge, it's nothing fancy in today's world. It's fairly old and it lacks many of today's quality of life features that you expect in cars. But owning the Cayenne and a few different Porsche loan vehicles that we've had during repairs has really taught me something. There's a certain feeling that's common to all Porsches when you drive them. Whether old, new, sporty or practical, all Porsches have a certain level of fit and finish and quality, but more importantly, they all share a certain on-road feel. And that's also been true of my experience with Lumin's streaming products so far. They all have a certain something about their sound that makes them instantly enjoyable and instantly familiar. But the Lumin P1 Mini is different. I'm not talking about its sound just yet, we'll get to that. What I'm talking about is the design of the P1 Mini. This is a streamer, a DAC, and a preamp. It's got control knobs on the front, which most Lumin products don't, and a lovely high quality volume control, which again, most Lumins don't. Normally the Lumin streamers are designed to be run through a smartphone or a tablet app, or they might be set up as just a simple endpoint for something like Roon running on a PC or again through your smartphone. The point being you might run them purely through a third-party software. With the P1 Mini, Lumin had a different purpose in mind. The P1 Mini is designed to replace every other box in your home audio system except for the power amps. So you can stream to it. It also has internet radio. You can run a digital source into it, like say a CD transport. You can even connect your TV to it via HDMI, and it's got HDMI ARC. You can even run an analog input into the P1 Mini, such as from a turntable and a phono preamp. With all of those sources, you can then output either a variable output to go directly to power amps, or you can have a fixed line level output if you've got an external preamp or maybe an integrated amp. Or it can give you a digital output if you want to use the streamer in the P1 Mini and send it on to some sort of external DAC. So the P1 Mini can be just a streamer, but it can also be your entire audio system, short of speaker amplification. I had to wonder if putting all of these circuits, features, and functions into a single box was somehow going to dilute the Luminness of the P1 Mini. Would it lose that wonderful Lumin sound quality and character? Of course, there's really only one way to find out. At $6,000 US, the P1 Mini is a premium priced product. Another parallel with Porsche. As such, I wanted to confirm immediately that the price tag was justified on the P1 Mini on sound quality alone. To check this, I compared the Porsche-level P1 Mini to the Mazda-level EverSolo DMP-A8. If those car references didn't land with you, the EverSolo DMP-A8 represents what I would consider to be an upper-level mid-tier product. It's a higher level product both in the looks, the finish and the features and sound quality than the budget basic type entry level products, but it also shouldn't be expected to be at the level of truly premium products like the Lumin brand for instance. The Lumin P1 Mini had to comfortably beat the DMP-A8 if I was going to take it seriously at all. And just a quick side note, I know the reason they've called this the P1 Mini is because it's a reduced version, a lower cost version of the original P1, but the term Mini is pretty misleading. This thing's huge. And so coming back to the testing, I tested both devices identically as streamer, DAC, and preamp all-in-ones. So each device was used on its own, feeding directly into the Burson Timekeeper GT monoblocks. And the EverSolo DMP-A8 got off to a strong start. The imaging was excellent, and the vocals were beautifully focused and present at the front and center of the soundstage. Swapping to the Lumin ramped up the resolution. It also produced more width in the soundstage and some extra layering too. All of this was without switching on Lumin's excellent upsampling options that are buried inside the menu, and those are fantastic and can further improve the sound slightly. As to which setting is the best, I think that's going to come down to preferences, whether you want to send everything to DSD or just upsample it to the maximum native sample rates, so high sample rate PCM for PCM or high rate DSD for DSD. I'll leave that bit up to you. The point is, it can improve the sound a little bit. Even without those switched on, further listening proved to me that the DMP-A8 can't match the sense of separation, refinement, and clarity that the P1 Mini was delivering. I've already mentioned that the P1 Mini had a greater sense of resolution to its sound compared to the A8, but there's more to it. Everything sounds just a little bit less tangible and lifelike from the DMP-A8. And that's the Lumin magic. I don't know how they do it, but the sound is always so natural and engaging from their devices. And to be fair here, the DMP-A8 costs about 1/3 of what you pay for a P1 Mini, so this isn't a fair comparison and it's not a knock against the DMP-A8. On top of that, the EverSolo dominates with its interface. It's vastly better in my opinion than what you get with the Lumin. So this isn't a completely one-sided battle. The Lumin is controllable with this gorgeous, solid metal remote control that I'm holding, but you still need to use the smartphone app if you want to get into any of the detailed settings, changing which outputs are used, changing the sampling rates, switching on or off the volume control options. I know that some people love the Lumin app and others not so much, and I get both sides of the equation. I personally think the Lumin app is fine, I've had no problems with it, but I really like the way EverSolos work with their touchscreen interface, the mirroring of that interface direct to your mobile phone, or using the mobile phone app more as a remote control. They've just got the interface down pat, and that is better than the Lumin in my opinion. However, my focus here is much more about the sound quality, because that's the thing you can't read about on Lumin's website. And the P1 Mini had just proved itself as an all-in-one solution that sounds absolutely fantastic if that's your priority. And so it's no surprise, it's a fantastic streaming device. We've come to expect that from Lumin. But the P1 Mini is meant to do a whole lot more. And so while the DMP-A8 was still in situ, I decided to test the preamp chops of the Lumin P1 Mini using an analog output from the Chord DAVE DAC. Again, the Lumin had an easy win, again, as you should expect for the higher price tag. The sound was vastly more open and transparent using the Lumin as a preamp. It actually makes me wonder if the weak point of the DMP-A8 is actually its analog output stage. Maybe if there's going to be a Gen 2 of the A8, like there's been a Gen 2 of the DMP-A6, that review's coming up soon by the way, so hit the subscribe button if you want to see it. But maybe if there's a Gen 2 of the A8 coming, they'll improve that analog output stage and leap the A8 to a new level of performance. For now though, it's not keeping up. And again, given the vast price difference, I thought it was time for a proper challenge for the P1 Mini. The all-clear Symphony 1 is a passive preamp that's still in production and is going to be released soon. I don't know exactly when. I've got a review of it on the way, and I also don't know when that review is going to be released exactly yet. I'm still working on it, but early bird channel members will be able to see that review within the next few days. The price of the Symphony 1 is yet to be finalised, but I expect it's going to cost around about 50% more than what the P1 Mini costs. Again, there's quite a range of possibilities here. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the Symphony 1 does only one thing for that money. It is just a preamp. We already know that the Lumin sounds fantastic as a preamp. It's spacious, clean, detailed and refined. It maintains an excellent image focus if the source is up to scratch. But moving to the dedicated all-clear preamp is even better still. There's more space around instruments from the all-clear. It sounds more transparent in the sense that it retains even more resolution from the source device. The tonality is very similar between both of these, but the differences lie elsewhere. It's in the presentation of the music, not the tonality of the music. For example, the maracas in Only Love are ridiculously tangible from the all-clear Symphony 1. You could reach out and grab them. However, the Lumin only falls a few steps short of the all-clear Symphony 1, and that's impressive given its price and its massive feature set. The all-clear 1 is clearly better, it's also clearly more expensive, but I think it provided some good context about the preamp performance of the P1 Mini, which is to say for the price you're paying and the features you're getting, it's a great preamp too. So let's get some DAC context now. Is it worth using the P1 Mini as the DAC in your system? Or are you shortchanging yourself if you do? This test is again a little bit unfair, but I think it illustrates just where the P1 Mini sits. I took a coaxial output from the SMSL PL200T CD transport. That's another review coming up soon, so subscribe and ring the bell if you want to see that one. I then switched the coaxial cable between the P1 Mini's digital input and the Chord DAVE DAC without the M-scaler. And then both DACs were feeding line level outputs directly into the NLAiV AMP23R, which is an integrated speaker amp and headphone amp. As expected, the Lumin sounded fantastic. It was doing everything I've already described, because really we're just changing the CD to the digital source instead of the streamer as the digital source. The Lumin was delivering detail, resolution, excellent imaging and staging, and a lifelike presentation. Swapping to the DAVE, that cost about twice as much as the P1 Mini, did provide better sound again. The DAVE offers more resolution, more separation of sounds, and better focus of the image. However, much like with the all-clear preamp, the differences weren't massive. It's the old game of diminishing returns. As you spend more, you do get improvements, but those improvements are incremental, not exponential. And this goes to show once again that the P1 Mini is performing really well for its price and for its set of features. And so I could have wrapped things up here and just heartily recommended the P1 Mini for all that it's capable of doing. But I didn't feel like I'd put the streaming circuit properly to the test. When I reviewed the Volumio Rivo Plus streamer recently, I was impressed with it. I wished at the time that I'd had a Lumin streamer here to compare it directly to. I didn't then, but I do now. Connecting the Rivo Plus's I2S output and the P1 Mini's coaxial output, both to the LAiV Harmony DAC, was the next test. The Harmony DAC was then feeding out to LAiV's HP2A headphone amp and preamp. The sound from the P1 Mini was a little bit crisper than what I heard from the Rivo Plus. The Rivo Plus creates a slightly smoother sound, but it's not lacking any detail or resolution compared to the P1 Mini, it's just a bit smoother. That said, both sounded excellent. Thinking about soundstage, the Lumin was a wider but slightly flatter presentation. Sorry, flatter that way. The Rivo Plus was a little bit narrower, but it was also noticeably deeper. And I should mention here that I was using the Rivo Plus with Volumio's own Lineo 5 power supply, and so that means that the total cost of the system was around about $1,800. And as a pure streamer, I do think the Rivo Plus had the slight edge over the P1 Mini. I preferred its smoother delivery, equivalent resolution, and more layered soundstage. It wasn't a big difference though, and the Rivo Plus can't do everything that the P1 Mini can do. And on that note, the reason I chose the LAiV Harmony DAC and HP2A amp for this test was that I was trying to recreate what the P1 Mini can do with a stack of separate components, being the Volumio Rivo Plus, the LAiV Harmony DAC, and the LAiV HP2A amp and preamp. That's headphone amp and preamp. I couldn't quite manage to directly match the same price of the Lumin P1 Mini with the stack of separates, but I got relatively close. The LAiV stack with the Rivo Plus from Volumio comes in at just over $7,000 US. So it is $1,000 more, but I figure by the time you're spending $6,000 or $7,000 with specials or sales or a bit of extra savings, you can probably choose between the two fairly easily. For that money and the extra cables and clutter required for the stack, the end resulting sound is pretty comparable, but it is different. Setting it up now so the P1 Mini is operating entirely on its own versus the stack of the Volumio and the LAiV products, the R2R DAC in the Harmony DAC delivers a weightier sound than the Sabre DAC in the P1 Mini. Both setups have very similar resolution, but the P1 Mini has a slightly greater sense of clarity. And it comes down to just a touch of emphasis in the sort of clarity sense from the P1 Mini. That's as opposed to the slightly richer, slightly smoother feel from the LAiV and Volumio stack. I was really enjoying the sense of note weight on guitars and vocals from the LAiV stack, but I also really liked the clarity from the Lumin. Ultimately, both are largely interchangeable on pure sound quality. Do you want that slightly crisper and more clarity-focused sound, or a slightly smoother, weightier, and richer sound? Of course, it's also worth noting that you can't plug your TV or your console into the Volumio and the LAiV stack. As a multimedia hub type situation, the P1 Mini has that covered. The P1 Mini can even pass on surround sound formats if you then have a separate receiver to handle surround sound decoding. I don't actually know of any other hi-fi stacks that are able to handle that, as in the surround sound pass-through. And so, as you've probably gathered, the P1 Mini absolutely has the same levels of Lumin quality that I've come to expect. The comparison with the Rivo Plus makes me think that maybe the streaming stage in the P1 Mini is a step behind some of the dedicated or higher level streamers from Lumin Audio, but it's still absolutely outstanding and it has such amazing features wrapped around it. And so I'll put a link in the description down below where you can click through to the Lumin website and read up more on the P1 Mini if you're interested, because there's some features I just haven't had time to to discuss or didn't have the setup to test, such as the optical network connection or the ability to directly connect your network storage devices. For now, if you're more interested in just a pure streaming solution and maybe you don't need all the extra bells and whistles of the P1 Mini, watch the video that I've pinned here at the end next for a couple of absolutely amazing, more pure streaming options. And in the meantime, a huge thanks as always to YouTube channel members, also to channel Patreon members, and to those of you who leave super thanks on videos like this one. And until next time, happy listening, be kind to each other, and I'll see you here again soon on Passion for Sound.